Newsom and Karen Bass have already proven their incompetence and poor leadership during the Los Angeles wildfires. Now, as we experience rampant lawlessness and civil unrest, it's never been more clear.
Tyrus.
What I saw, what it looked to me like he was negotiating with a deaf prostitute.
Mel Gibson storms onto the scene like he's headlining Mad Max. Governor Meltdown. Seconds later, Tyrus charges in, radiating raw energy like he just smashed his way out of a WWE showdown. And suddenly, Gavin Newsom is trapped as the unwilling star of a brutal roast no one ever asked for. These two don't just call him out. They practically hand him a flaming farewell letter, wrapped in sarcasm and tossed like dynamite. This isn't politics anymore. It's a Hollywood-sized wrecking ball colliding headfirst with a merciless reality check that leaves nothing standing.
Turmoil, and I asked my fellow Angelinos, why are Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass still in office? How much more of their destructive decision-making masquerading as leadership are we going to tolerate? It's time to take back our community and our state and put the power and the privilege in the hands of competent leaders whose goals are to protect us and the way of life this nation was founded.
Mel Gibson isn't the kind of man to quietly sip tea. He's the storm that rips the door clean off its hinges, flips the table upside down, and growls that the tea was poisoned while glaring straight through your soul. But this time, the chaos isn't about swords, painted faces, or crusades. It's aimed directly at Gavin Newsom, the slick-haired figure who struts around looking more like a shampoo ad model than any serious political powerhouse. Gibson turns the spotlight into a weapon, and suddenly Newsom's polished act starts cracking under the pressure.
Back and watch the tape.
Yes!
He literally goes, I want some of this, then you do some of this, and I'll do some of that back to you, and then we'll do this, and then I'll pay you, and then we'll do it again.
True.
And then she kept saying, no. Okay, how about this? You do this one first, then we do this one, then we give a little back and forth.
California's governor, the man who looks sculpted out of marble using nothing but hair gel and overflowing arrogance, has stumbled into a plotline too outrageous even for Hollywood. He's built like a refrigerator packed with ego, the kind who could crush a folding chair just by leaning back. If Gibson is the chaos grenade, then Tyrus is the steel hammer, and together they've reduced Newsom to nothing more than a disposable extra in his own political soap opera. You know things have spiraled into pure madness when your toughest critics aren't rival politicians at all, but a Hollywood firestorm with no filter and a wrestler-turned-commentator who treats nonsense like a plague that must be wiped out immediately.
Did he leave out anything? I think there's about 100 other reasons, too.
Well, you can't, it's not his words when he speaks.
Yeah.
You have to watch him closely. And some genius decided not to film him any lower than the shoulder.
Yes, did you? Yes.
So what did he do?
You couldn't see the hands.
No, but he sent Morse code.
So why is Gavin Newsom sweating bullets under that blinding spotlight? Simple. He runs California like some twisted luxury theme park where every single ride is broken, the bathrooms are chained shut, and the parking lot still robs you for $50 before you even walk in. Instead of repairing the wreckage, he just polishes that smug grin like it's a trophy locked in a glass case. Mel and Tyrus finally snapped at the circus show, and they didn't just dim his spotlight, they dropped a total blackout that swallowed his entire stage and left him in the dark with nowhere to hide.
Governor Gavin Newsom and LA Mayor Karen Bass, well, they were also suggesting that LA was under control. They had it covered while, of course, LA was essentially burning. And they've been blaming Donald Trump for all the chaos in LA, while Gavin Newsom has been trying to emerge as the strong leader of the Democrats as he eyes off the presidency in 3 years' time. But actor Mel Gibson has spoken out, blasting the governor and the mayor, rightfully so, for their disastrous leadership.
Mel Gibson's target couldn't be more obvious. This is a man who spent decades in Hollywood watching frauds climb ladders by faking sincerity. And nothing screams fraud louder than Gavin Newsom parading around as the golden boy of progressive politics, while his state collapses into something that looks like the backdrop of a dystopian Netflix series. Gibson probably shakes his head, thinking, I've played villains less cartoonish than this guy. If Gibson slices with a razor's edge, then Tyrus barrels in like a sarcasm-charged freight train, ready to derail everything. But here's the twist. It's not just failed policies they're exposing, it's the performance itself. Newsom struts like a wannabe president, hair shinier than an oil slick, practicing his serious leader face in the mirror as if he's auditioning for daytime television. Meanwhile, the real California is where deodorant sits locked behind glass cases and tent cities swallow sidewalks whole. It's Gotham without a hero. And Gibson has finally had more than enough of the act.
Yeah.
He's negotiating with the deaf prostitute.
Yeah.
Let's just stick with that.
Yeah. More likely.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people have been coming out and calling out, Gavin Newsom endlessly, and the biggest one of all is Mel Gibson. We all know that he is a very big, open critic of Gavin Newsom, and he continues to actually do that, and rightfully so, because we already know that there's a lot of issues going on right now within the state of California.
Picture it. Gibson tearing the chaos wide open with volcanic fury, Tyrus piling on with a smirk that practically shouts, "We've got you cornered," and Newsom left standing like a dethroned prom king, watching his plastic crown tumble into the gutter. The sting isn't just that they mocked him, it's that the takedown detonated like the roast of the year. When Hollywood rage collides with wrestling grit, your politics don't just stumble. They get ripped apart and served up as meme material. California now feels like a crumbling freeway, expensive to repair, brutal to drive, and ignored by the very man who's supposed to fix it. Gibson doesn't waste breath on polite digs. He unloads cinematic-scale insults with laser precision. And Tyrus? He's the hype man of destruction, tossing verbal body slams into the carnage. Together, they don't just expose Newsom, they pin him under a spotlight so blinding it makes red carpet premieres look dim. The cruelest irony? Newsom always dreamed of being the star. Perfect smile, rehearsed one-liners, that glossy leading man act meant to win applause. But now he's trapped in the nightmare role of his own demolition.
Gibson lost his house in these wildfires.
Yeah.
And what you just saw there was an effort to recall the governor and Mayor Bass. Does his star power in this matter?
It matters in the sense we're playing it now on national television on a highly rated Fox and Friends first show, and that has gone viral on social media. And meanwhile, the same day that Mel Gibson says what he says there, and he's correct on so many things as far as the management of wildfires, Gavin Newsom's approval on the handling of the wildfires is only 30%.
Wow.
Instead of the heroic role he craved, Gibson and Tyrus shoved Newsom straight into the villain's chair of their roast special, and not as some menacing Darth Vader, but as a bargain bin Scooby-Doo crook whose mask gets ripped off to reveal a slick operator running a low-budget scam. That's the real humiliation. Newsom thought he was auditioning for the presidency, but ended up as the punchline in someone else's comedy. If he's mastered anything beyond dragging California down, it's pretending he hasn't. He parades like the star of a Netflix thriller, but the script is nothing more than endless hair-combing montages, while potholes devour entire neighborhoods. If Mel Gibson can glance at the wreckage and mutter, "That's too much," then Newsom has wandered into full-blown parody. And just when the scene hits its peak, Tyrus drops a verbal elbow from the top rope. He doesn't sugarcoat. He slices straight to the rotten core. A catastrophe held together by hair gel and arrogance. Tyrus has zero tolerance for nonsense, and Newsom practically radiates it. Watching Tyrus tear into him is like watching a pit bull shred a chew toy shaped like a politician. Fast, ruthless, and leaving nothing behind but shredded pride and empty bravado.
You can watch it. Look at the blinking. Blink, look. Meet me at the house. Like, he's blinking. He's sending. I'm getting there. Hey, just so you know, I'm not wearing pants.
Ew.
And then, look, he's blinking. And then eventually, the camera guy realizing that he's signaling him, so he gets appalled, leans back, camera comes down, and then we're back to this. I'll do this for you. You do this for me a little. So he's saying whatever he's going to say. There it is. See? They couldn't hold him back. He's like, I'm not on film. Oh, I'm not. Nope. Oh.
The funniest twist is that Newsom probably believed he was untouchable in this arena. Politicians expect critics to come from rivals, governors, senators, maybe a late-night comedian tossing cheap one-liners. But Gibson and Tyrus? That's an entirely different universe colliding on his stage. Gibson blasts him with the explosive force of a Hollywood detonation, and Tyrus seals the takedown with a smackdown that proves this isn't just about California. It's about the absurdity of a man posing as presidential material while his state looks like a survival reality show nobody wants to win. California was once the land of glitz, dreams, and golden beaches. Now, under Newsom, it's a carnival ride called Collapse. Entry is free if you're homeless, overpriced if you're not, and the only exit leads out of state. The punchline is savage. Gibson knows the difference between a blockbuster and a flop, and California under Newsom isn't just a flop. It's a crash-and-burn viral fail. The contrast only sharpens the roast. Gibson charges in like he's ready to duel traffic on the 405, while Newsom hands him ammunition on a silver platter. Blackouts, sky-high rents, crime rates ripped from comic books. Everything falls apart. Except, of course, the hair. If pomade were tax-deductible, the state budget would be fixed overnight. Gibson couldn't resist mocking that vanity, and Tyrus hammered it home with brutal precision. Perfect hair won't disguise bad leadership. It just makes disaster sparkle for the cameras. Picture Newsom backstage, frantically smoothing every strand while the entire state collapses around him.
Well, speaking of full of isn't it? I'm sorry, I'm confused. He's still governor, right?
Yes.
So he could do something about it. That's the most irritating thing, is like, why did anyone say with a follow-up where he's like, the homeless situation is ridiculous? Follow-up question, aren't you governor?
Yeah.
Like, that's the difference. That's the difference between the radical left and President Trump. He'll talk about something as it's
Once you've been reduced to nothing more than a punchline, the only thing left is the illusion of control. And for Newsom, that illusion lives in layers of blow-dried shine. The brilliance of this takedown is how it strips him down completely, exposing a man who mistakes polished looks for actual power. He's like a knockoff designer bag, flashy from a distance, but crumbling the second it's put to real use. Sure, he's dodged scandals before, lavish lockdown dinners, endless failures swept under rugs, and speeches that sound like motivational fluff for people allergic to reality. But when Mel Gibson, Hollywood's king of volcanic tirades, locks his sights on you, and Tyrus piles on with sarcasm heavy enough to flatten a stage, your carefully staged image collapses like flimsy set props under blazing lights. The timing makes it even sharper. Just as Newsom was polishing his presidential pitch, rehearsing for that Oval Office spotlight, Gibson and Tyrus stormed in with a reality check so fierce it shredded his campaign script into a blooper reel. Instead of standing tall on the national stage, he's stumbling over his own lines, suddenly realizing that two unlikely critics just torched the one thing he treasures most, his image.
How much more of their destructive decision-making masquerading as leadership are we going to tolerate? It's time to take back our community and our state and put the power and the privilege in the hands of competent leaders whose goals are to protect us and the way of life this nation was founded upon and promises to offer. That's all.
And the embarrassment? It isn't fading, it's hardening into stone, fossilizing in real time for the world to see. Gibson and Tyrus didn't just roast Newsom for laughs. They laid out the full demolition blueprint to crush the entire Newsom brand once and for all. They proved you don't need endless policy papers or marathon debates. Just sharp tongues, ruthless humor, and the guts to say out loud what everyone's been whispering. The emperor isn't just without clothes, he's drowning in hair gel, flashing a grin now exposed as pure delusion. Gibson doesn't even need to force it. After decades in Hollywood, he can spot a man reading lines someone else wrote. And Newsom's entire persona looks stitched together by interns who thought voters only cared about lighting and perfect teeth. To Gibson, the performance is so hollow, even bargain action flicks seem profound in comparison. Meanwhile, Tyrus treats the Newsom for president fantasy like a running joke that just won't die. He doesn't simply toss it aside. He pile-drives it into the dirt, plants his foot on the wreckage, and leaves the so-called campaign etched forever as a punchline carved in stone.
He's playing with us. Meet me at my house. You get mine. I get yours. It'll work out.
Paul, are they capable of soul searching? It feels like the party itself has no soul.
Yeah, I know, they have no soul. You know, it's a really interesting statement if you just kind of, you can break it in two. He spends the whole first part of that saying, we lost because this. Essentially what he says is, folks, we were on the wrong side of every issue last.
For Gibson, the thought of Gavin Newsom running the country is like handing the space shuttle controls to the guy who just totaled the golf cart. Sure, it might be entertaining for a split second, but after that, everyone's bracing for catastrophe. And his resume? It reads like a disaster reel. Homelessness exploding, chaos climbing higher by the day, and failures piling up like broken props backstage. The real spectacle, though, is how he handles criticism. Instead of fixing a single thing, he doubles down with his tired trick. I'm polished, so I must be right. It's like watching a kid try to ace a spelling test by scribbling their name in glitter. Gibson slices through that phony act with the fury of a man who's fought battles both on screen and in life, while Tyrus calls it exactly what it is. A flimsy performance that would get booed off America's Got Talent before the first commercial break. Now picture him on a debate stage, seasoned fighters on one side, and on the other, Newsom practicing his smirk in the mirror, praying the spotlight makes him look authentic. Gibson would laugh at the casting. It's like putting a background extra in the lead role of a blockbuster. And Tyrus? He'd brand it what it truly is. A parody so absurd, it almost plays like comedy. The timing couldn't sting worse. Newsom has been polishing his presidential image with staged smiles and carefully planned tours. But Gibson's firepower, mixed with Tyrus's crushing one-liners, is the nightmare combo no candidate wants. And the kicker? Newsom can't win. If he ignores them, the roast lingers forever. If he fights back, it explodes even bigger. Either way, he's trapped, and Gibson and Tyrus know it. They've locked him into a comedy chokehold with no escape, and the entire country is watching the spectacle.